Hello and welcome to UFOA Australia. We have some new guests with us today, Keith Basterfield from South Australia. Keith, welcome to the show.
Howdy, Andrew.
How are you today?
Very good, thank you.
That's good, that's good. We've just had the Linda Moulton Howe conference here in South Australia that Keith organised. That was a good night, yes?
Yeah, extremely good night. I mean, it was so nice to see a lot of people turning out on a wintry Adelaide's night. Probably twice the number of people we've had to any event here before.
Yep.
And we could have probably fitted another 20 or 25 people in had we had the capacity, so very pleasing to have those numbers. And I guess, I mean, it's not all about numbers, but what's nice about bigger numbers is that people talk to each other, people start networking. And I've got a number of people to contact who I've not heard of for years, who sort of come out of the woodwork again. So that'll be really great to follow those up. But yeah, a really good night.
Yeah. She talked for a long time. Was it 2.5 hours?
Yes, and she would have talked for twice that length.
No, it was very. So where is Linda off to next?
She's off to Sydney. She'll be giving a talk in Sydney, and then from there she's going up to the Nexus conference in Queensland to give the same talk to the Nexus conference.
Okay.
So unlike most years, we've had the pleasure of hearing the talk without needing to go into state.
Yeah. Welcome back. We're talking with Keith about Linda Moulton Howe. We're also going to talk to Keith about his experiences over the years and the whole career of Keith Basterfield. So let's get into it.
Sure.
Keith, you came to Australia in what year?
1968, and that was after I'd been interested just for about 2 years. So my interest came from being a child who was ill with asthma, who lived in the middle of England, and what my interest there was in astronomy. We had some very dark skies, lived in the country, so my first passion was astronomy. So I learnt a lot about astronomy even from the age of 10 or 12, and I've retained that interest all the way through my life.
So with the telescope and the whole...
No, naked eye at that stage. Picture an English village which was miles from anywhere else, with a totally black sky, and there was just so much to see with the naked eye that was really good. So I learned the names of the constellations, the planets, and what was around in the sky to start off with.
So did you map the sky at the time, or was it just a map?
Yeah, it was sort of writing down on pieces of paper the constellation names, paths of the planets, found out where north, south was, got to learn some of the technological terms, or technical terms I should say, and got very interested in that. And then went down the local library one day in the mid-60s and read a book by George Adamski called Flying Saucers Have Landed. And because I was of a science bent, I thought there can't be anything possibly true about this. And that promptly left my interest go for about 6 months. But I'll come back to that interest perhaps at another spot. But what I then did is the local library fortunately had a book by Jacques Vallée there, Challenge to Science.
I've just started reading some of his
books.
Yeah, very interesting.
And because of that, he was a French astronomer. So interested in astronomy, neighbouring country, developed an interest in his sort of methodology. And I've always been a great fan of his. Probably he's been the role model who's I've learned to follow. So really the first person's book I read who made sense to me was a scientist, an astronomer, who was looking at the UFO subject.
Okay, so we're talking somebody who's really credible about what they do.
That's right, and somebody who I guess fitted into my academic schooling at the time, which was in science. I was always more interested in science than anything else. So that gave me a bit of an insight into what somebody else was thinking about the subject. And at the same time, in the mid-60s to late 60s, there was a big UFO wave in England. So for example, in 1967, there was front page headlines in all of the newspapers. The stories and photographs were carried. Police were chasing objects all across southern England. And this was prior to crop circles, so it was purely sightings. But there were sightings of a whole range of things across southern England. So it was then sort of reading about those, reading Jacques Vallée, and just generally thinking, and then we immigrated to Australia.
Yep.
So when I came to Australia, I joined the local UFO group.
Yes.
And started doing field investigations.
That was here in South Australia?
Here in Adelaide, yep. There's a group called the Australian Flying Source Research Society, which had been going since the 1950s and 60s.
Okay.
So long established.
Yep.
So I joined that and met a number of other people about my age who were looking to do scientific investigations.
Okay.
So in the early 70s, we spent basically every weekend interviewing people all across South Australia. So I've been to some very small places in South Australia. I can tell you where a place called Ibinga is.
I've never
where
heard
most
of it.
people have never heard of and never been. It's 2 houses.
Yes.
But we went to interview somebody there with
Has there been a sighting in this place?
strange object flying over, and the television had interference on it from the object going over. So this was like a physical effect.
Electromagnetism.
Yeah,
type of thing,
yeah. So that was my first sort of exposure to that. We interviewed people who were travelling in. Mainly the interviews were coming and being done in the country of South Australia. Some of the more interesting sightings and encounters were happening there. So we're talking here pre-abductions, pre-crop circle era, purely, in those days it was the classic metallic disc in the 70s.
Yeah, the true flying sources.
Yeah, or balls of light that people were seeing. So I formed an investigation group here in Adelaide, and we brought together, interesting to say, there were about 5 UFO groups in Adelaide in the 70s.
Okay.
We brought them all together in a room
Yes.
and said, let's combine,
Yeah,
let's form a
makes
group
sense.
to go out and investigate.
Yes.
So we formed a group which was about 10 people.
Yep.
And I remember in 1972 we investigated something like about 200 cases in South Australia in 1 year.
That's a lot back then.
Was a lot. We found that there was a fairly high level of explanation to them.
Yep.
Aircraft, planets, satellites and so on.
Yep.
But the ability was that there was a percentage which were classically unknown.
Okay, so we're talking the 2-3%.
More like 10% in those days.
10%?
Yeah. We had some classic cases, daylight observations of farmers seeing pearl-shaped objects going across up in our mid-north, people encountering strange objects at 4 o'clock in the morning on country roads.
And your opinion is that it's most likely that a lot of that was military aircraft, or do you think there's a good chance that that probably was a
because of
genuine
the nature
sighting?
of the level that we used to investigate, trying to exclude every normal explanation.
Yeah.
Most of those I would put in the category of a true UFO. You can't explain them.
And do you think that's still happening today at that level?
It's difficult to know. On the national level now, there are hundreds of reports being made to a whole variety of UFO groups.
Yep.
But we seem to have downgraded our national level collection. So today, as a researcher in Adelaide, I find it difficult to have a knowledge of an Australian-wide picture. Whereas in the 70s and 80s, I was in there.
Okay.
I was at the national level. I was compiling newsletters which were carrying all of the sightings for the whole of Australia. And so today it's a little bit more difficult for me to know. But I have the feeling, though, that the phenomena probably is more rarer. The true UFO stuff, the 10% of the 1970s, we seem to get maybe 2 or 3 cases like that in South Australia a year now. So my perception is that although the interest has gone up, the media attention has gone up, the true core phenomena, if you want to call it that, has decreased numerically.
Okay.
I'd stand to be corrected by people in the state, but I have a sense of what's going on
So
here.
do you feel, and I get this kind of sense as well, that as years have gone by and where we are today, there's a lot of different clubs around, or UFO organisations, if you like, but they don't talk to each other, or they try to compete against each other instead of pulling the resources together.
Yeah,
And the only one that I know of that actually tries to pull it all together would be AUFOA.
Yeah,
Which I believe you remember.
Yeah, in the 1970s we ran a national level group called the Australian Centre for UFO Studies, which was modelled, or actually requested that we set up in Australia by J. Allen Hynek when he visited in, I think, 74.
Because you did some work for
Yeah,
organisation.
when he was here in 74, we actually helped set up, and I became one of the coordinators for the centre. So at that time, we were pooling every single group in Australia we called to a conference in New South Wales. And we sat there, and we, similar to the idea in South Australia, we said, pool the groups, let's form one collection body for reports. Doesn't matter what your belief about this.
Correct.
Let's just all have a look at the raw data. Akifos was the same thing on a national level. Just about every single group in Australia participated. We were accumulating all the reports. They were published. They were catalogued. They were available to anyone who wanted copies within the groups, and that was a very good thing. In the late 1990s, Rob Froller and Di Harrison, who became Guy Froller, said we need some form of national level organisation again. The passage of time had wound down that.
Well, they did the Ufologist magazine,
and they had a national
which I subscribed to.
magazine, which was great. They ran a national hotline which gathered reports from all over Australia. Anyone could phone in. They were then farming them out to everybody. That seems to have died a little bit late, and I'd like to see that revitalised in some way. But yeah, we definitely don't have the same national level picture. So a person interested in, say, Perth, who belongs to a UFO group there, will know about what happens in WA. They'll have no idea what's going on in Tasmania at the same time.
And to be honest, Keith, that's where I guess I've come into the fore, because we now do our show once a month. I couldn't find anything visual about the UFOs, about current state of play, where it's all going, in any kind of show that was an Australian show here in.
No, and I think you're to be commended on that, because that's what is needed at the present moment. It needs a high internet profile. It needs a profile that fits in with the interests of younger people today, in their 20s and 30s, who have an interest, but they have no idea of the history. Some of them have no idea who to talk to about it, and it would be nice to be grounded in the history so that you can then use whatever you're looking at today, your interest today, but be grounded in a bit of history. I mean, I know the history, and I'm trying to keep up with what's happening today, but I think it needs the stronger national level interest.
I would totally agree with you on that. I believe that we need to come together as a group. We are one group either way you look at it. We might be diverse, and we might have different ideas on things. But I think at the end of the day, we're all championing for the same thing. And so we need to pull together more.
And I think probably if I was to suggest something we could head in a common direction, it would be to strengthen the networks between us. There are certainly a lot of groups, but there are also lots and lots of individuals out there these days who don't need to attend public meetings, they don't need to attend big organisations to keep their interest going. And I think we need to recognise that there are two levels of interest now. People who want to go to public meetings, will support public lectures, but there are individuals who are time constrained, who are very cluey on technical ways, and we need to provide, like you are doing, an ability for someone to sit at home at 10 o'clock at night after a hard day and watch a podcast of something without the need to spend the time to go interstate or to take 3 days off for a conference. I think we need a combination of all those things.
I totally agree. And we have our own website, obviously, in relation to UFOs in Australia. And we try to steer it closely to home more than anywhere else. We have some overseas product in there, but the bulk of it is really, I guess, Australian. And that's where this has come from now with the interviews. We're going to try, obviously, do a lot more interviews for you guys out there, because we know that this is what you want to see. The Keith Basterfields of the world, the George Simpsons of the world. We need to get these guys in, because they are our lifeline to what's actually happening around the country, in the past and in the future. So that's where that all comes from.
And I think that's probably the way to go, because there's lots and lots of information out there. In fact, we're probably swamped with information. And you do a good service by being able to encapsulate that, summarise it, spend your time pulling summaries together, so that other people can sit at home and just in 20 minutes they can just gather what they want. They can say, oh, I'm really interested in just pursuing that little point out of your 20-minute conversation, but I'll go and do that for you. And then as long as they come back to you and say, look, you mentioned just this point in passing, I've gone away, I've checked the state archives, I've tracked down and interviewed this person you mentioned, who you've never seen or never met, didn't even know was alive. I found that person, interviewed them, and here's some video of the interview that we've done with this person. And that saves all of us the
Oh
time.
yeah, for sure, yeah. We've got our contact page on the website, so if there's any questions that you want me to throw to Keith, send us your questions and we'll certainly pass them on to Keith and we'll see if we can get the answers for a future episode. So, well, welcome back. We've still got a few things to talk with Keith about, and one of the things I wanted to ask Keith about was obviously the government files, because government files in Australia, as we know recently, a lot of them have gone missing. What's your take on government files in Australia?
What was interesting, back in about 2003, we'd already had Bill Chalker go through to have a look at the Air Force files in the early 1980s.
Yes.
And he'd got open access to them in those days, and he published a lot of material which he found in there. We thought, I wonder if there's more files we can find, and I wonder if there's any further involvement with government departments in the Air Force.
Sorry. Yes.
So we thought, let's do another search. And there were half a dozen people here in Adelaide and Di Harrison in Brisbane who was interested in doing such a project.
Yep.
So they became the sort of sponsors of it at the AUFOA level, at the national level, to give a bit of a national level push.
Yep.
And here in Adelaide, the half a dozen of us, I guess, did the spade work.
Yep.
And what we found essentially was, yes, there was more files that you could find within the Australian government than Air Force files.
Okay.
There were other areas of the Department of Defence.
Yep.
We found, I think, one Navy file, a couple of Navy files,
Couple of Navy files.
3 or 4 Army files,
Yes.
and literally dozens of Department of Defence files, which came from the Air Force.
Okay.
But then we found the Department of Supply had UFO files, the Department of National Infrastructure had a UFO file, the Northern Territory Government had UFO files,
And this was all secret.
the
No one really
DSDO
knew
had
these
files.
existed. Yeah.
Well, I think people had an inkling of it, but no one had been able to find them.
Okay.
And over 5 years, we managed to track down, reference to, or looked at, like about 150 files, 15,000 pages. We had access either through the Archives Act, we found them in the archives in Melbourne, Perth, Brisbane and Sydney and Adelaide,
Yep.
and physically looked at a number of files, arranged to have the files photocopied.
Yep.
We actually were able to take digital photographs of some files.
Oh, they let you do
Yeah,
that?
but what we ended up doing is we summarised line by line every single document we found, thousands of them.
Okay.
And we have those summaries available for public viewing.
Yep.
We then found there were other files which were harder to find.
Yep.
And so one file that took us 2 years to find was one that belonged to the Department of Defence's intelligence area.
Oh, okay.
And eventually,
that would take a while.
It took a while, but after 2 years, we found a file, 100-page, and what it actually disclosed was that the intelligence area of the Australian Defence Department, their personnel there said, yes, we think there is something to the subject, yes, we think it should be researched scientifically, but we haven't got the scientific resources within the Department of Defence's intelligence area to do that.
Oh, okay.
And the Air Force were looking to have the Department of Supply or the CSIRO take a look.
Yep.
Neither of those departments ultimately were interested in taking on a scientific look.
Okay.
So the government was, or has said in documentation, yep, we think the UFO phenomenon is real, we think it's worthy of scientific attention, but we don't know who should do it.
Yeah.
And so it never happened.
Okay.
And then eventually they wound down the project, put all their files in the National Archives, and over that period of time now, we've organised to have a lot of their files digitised.
Okay.
So they're now publicly available for anyone to go and have a look at.
So given that the situation, you obviously have a lot of cases now that are already recorded. You have those files.
Yes.
All digitally recorded. What next? What happens with those files? Do you then go and investigate those incidences that happen, or how does that work from here?
Yeah, most of the problem is that with freedom of information, that you'll get a photocopy or access to a document, but the person's name is redacted.
Okay.
It is covered up with black biro, and you can't actually track down that individual. Don't forget though that we're talking about files that the government put away into the National Archives in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
So we're talking now 16 years ago, the last files were put away, the government wound up its interest in UFO phenomena, put it away into the archives, so that many of the cases we're talking about here, which go back to the early 1950s, people would simply, even if you could track them down, may not be alive. So some of the key cases, people have been tracked down. The interviews been done, documentation's been published in various UFO magazines here and overseas, and that material now is in the public realm already.
Okay.
It just may be difficult to pull together to find the stuff. But we can always point you in the right direction. If somebody's interested in a particular case, we can always point you in the direction of where to look at or who to talk to, who's got a case file on that. So if you have the people who are viewing, if you have a particular case you'd like to find some more information on, you can get in touch with Andrew and we can find you the person to have a talk to, or somebody can simply send you an email attachment which will contain the case notes. But it is still fragmented. We've got the government files, we've got files in various UFO groups. There is no national level repository of civilian UFO data. It is completely scattered around the country.
I guess this is an obvious question. What do we have to do to make that happen?
I think what we have to do is get people in various capital cities interested enough to say, I'll go and find some of these papers which are sitting in people's houses. I'll talk to that individual, get permission, photocopy it, and at least scan it. And then perhaps we should start the equivalent of a National Archives campaign whereby we scan civilian UFO documents and lodge them in a server or multiple servers so that those documents in 10 years' time will be available to the interested person.
So I guess what we really need, what you're talking about, then is a national database with all that information being fed in from across the country, inputted by individuals who happen to go and investigate a particular incident that they've seen locally for them.
And that would be the best way of giving us all access to raw data, because whatever your belief system about the UFO phenomena, if you're all working from the same raw data, you've got the original material that you can then form your opinions on. And I'd rather go back to some original data than read a magazine which has come out of the USA, which has distorted something that happened in Australia.
It's the Chinese whispers thing, you know, where one story passes to another, and before you know it, it's bigger and better. So.
That's right.
Just one other thing I wanted to ask you before we wrap it up. What would you say has probably been the most interesting incident that you've actually investigated over the years that's left, I guess, a profound impression with UFOs on yourself and your life and so forth?
Probably the one that comes to mind is one that Bill Chalker, a chap from Melbourne called Garrett Little, and I went over to Victoria in 1980 to have a look at. I know it's a long way back, but it's the case which has kept me interested for those years. It happened near Rosedale in Victoria.
We were talking about this morning.
In 1980. And we went across and we interviewed the farmer whose property it happened on. We had a look at the physical trace in the ground. We took some soil samples. We couldn't find a natural explanation. We were thinking the ground marking might be a fungus ring. It could be a bacteria ring. But we found no evidence of that.
So you did actually have like a ring on the ground?
There was a ring on the ground, a donut-shaped ring. I think from memory maybe 9 metres across. Channel 9 went out there and flew a helicopter over the site within a day and filmed it. We could see what it looked like 24 hours later. But we actually didn't go across for about 3 months. We were behind the 8 ball in knowing about it had happened eventually, and went over and did the investigation. So we interviewed the farmer himself, the property owner who'd seen the farmer and the ring that morning. We interviewed a number of farmers who also had similar traces on their properties around about the same time. We checked the Met Bureau for the Met data. We talked to the Air Force about it. We did all the investigations you would like to do. Ended up with about a 40-page case document. But that sits with me as a very unknown example of the true UFO or core UFO phenomena that has kept my interest. And it was a classic type disc-shaped thing. It wasn't a nebulous light. It wasn't a claim of an abduction. It was the typical 1950s classic saucer which had been reported time and time again, which seemed to have gone away recently. But that case sticks with me. If I was to say what is a good example of a case that I can't explain, that would be the first one that would come to mind.
And I guess it was reported by somebody who probably had no interest in UFOs at all.
He had absolutely no interest. In fact, I think after a while he was fed up with talking to people. I went back and had a look at the ground trace a year later. I can still find it a year later. I found no evidence of fruiting bodies from fungus. Dug in the soil, couldn't find the typical trace of mycelium, which are the white threads of fungi bodies. There was just nothing there.
Okay.
And that's probably a good example of a classic UFO sighting in Australia.
So look that up, guys. Have a look at the Rosedale incident, because I was reading about this the other night. Very interesting story. All right, Keith, thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate you coming along to our show today. We hope you have enjoyed yourself here and with Linda and so forth. It's been an interesting experience.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, folks, thanks for being with us again for another exciting episode of UFOnaut Australia. We enjoy putting this show together, we love your company, and we hope to see you again next time. In the meantime, don't forget, keep looking up, let us know what you see. Bye.